Yay! All right, awesome. Now I feel better. Sorry, thank you guys. Okay, so now you can see my screen. So we're going to talk about reclaiming your space and why do we collect stuff. So I have two different things. So briefly, this was my introduction page. This is myself and my business partner just doing some minimizing. And then we just talk about clutter and what exactly is it. So sometimes it's hard for us to describe what clutter is, but what we like to just think of them as the uns. So they're unwanted, unloved, unused, unfinished, and unspecified. So that's, you can see like the uns. So the projects that are not finished, that are lying around, that we're going to get to one day. Then we have the unloved items. So we'll go into this a little bit more on my other slide, but so things that people have given to you and you're like, yeah, I don't really like that, but I'll keep it because I feel guilty. And then we talk about collect. So we collect clutter through the reasons that I don't know if you guys actually saw that. Like, so I came up with that acronym of 6 top reasons of why we collect clutter. And I came up with this one here. So this is a screen. So retail therapy, emotions, which is a huge one, right? And then A is arranged time. So we don't have enough time in the day. S is sentimental, O is overwhelm, and N is no. So can't say no to people. Either it's relatives that are saying, hey, this is from your childhood. I've been saving this, so here you go, you can have it back. Whether it's from the neighbor down the road who is saying, oh, my kids are finished with all these toys. Here you go, you can have them. Okay. And then procrastination. So this is the act of delayed action is the enemy of efficiency and productivity. So procrastination goes into the overwhelm, can't find time. You know, I would rather just step away and say, I don't have time to do this right now. So this is just a really quick outlay, and then we'll go into the workbook as well. So a lot of us, I'm not sure, it's becoming actually really well known now that clutter affects health. So it can heighten stress levels, which can heighten, mental health issues. It can be, it's harder to clean your home. So it can heighten your allergies. And then it can cause safety issues. And then it's just the stress and overwhelm and emotion. Okay. And then we talk about brain loves order. So our brain loves to be calm. It doesn't like to have so many choices. It doesn't like to be overwhelmed. That's when our cortisol levels and our stress levels rise. And then we start that's when we stop and can't make a decision. So I should have said, sorry as well, if anyone has any questions, put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them. If you feel like, you want to ask a question straight away, I will save some time at the end too for it. And so with the brain loving order, I kind of liken it to quite often, when we go away on vacation, and yes, we are really happy, right? We're on vacation. But when you go into a hotel room, it's kind of like an automatic, that feeling of relief because there is less in that room. There's really just the necessities in that room, right? Maybe obviously less than that, but it's just an automatic feeling of calm. So when you see pictures like this is where automatically your reaction, even, it's not your own house, it just kind of heightens your anxiety levels heighten, right? Because it's like, whoa, that's just so overwhelming. Where would you possibly start in that room? And this is a case of for a client, procrastination, right? It was just basically visitors would come around. So they just throw stuff in there and just close the door because they didn't have time to do it, right? So I just talked quickly about how to reduce clutter. So the tactic here, and then, sorry, like I said, we'll go into the workbook quickly after this, but tackle one room at a time and take each item through this flow chart. I'm sorry, my dog, I don't know if you can hear him or not. I don't know if anyone's watching the Marie Kondo show and has seen it on Netflix. She talks about doing everything all at once, which is great, but I don't think any of us have that time, right, to pull the whole house apart. And then I think in a few, she came back weeks later. It's like, it's really not feasible. So we talk about taking one room at a time. And then what you do is you pick up an item. Is it irreplaceable or of sentimental value? Dog is going crazy. Yes. Have you used it? Worn it in the last 6 months? Keep, sell, or donate. So one thing to be careful with if you decide to sell items too, I always have that conversation with clients. Do you really have, is it worth your time to sell items? You know, like if we do the Facebook, is it really worth your time? Well, with people not turning up, you have to take pictures of it. You have to write that description. You know, you put it out. Sometimes people come, you arrange that time. So time is very valuable, right? So just think about that too. I know it's really hard because you've spent money on that item and it's really hard to kind of let go. But how we talk to that is, if you're donating something, just think somebody else really needs that item, right? So you're doing something really good there. And if you say, is it irreplaceable or a sentimental value? No. Can it be recycled? Yes, no. So it's really trying to make it as simple as possible, right? Like, and that sometimes I find we get a little overwhelmed with everything. And then I put this quote in there, which is like, the easiest way to organize yourself is to get rid of most of it. So it's just a little joke in there, really. But that's what the minimalist said. So that would be really great. I had a video in here. I don't know if it was just a little fun video with this one here, but I might play that later. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is switch screens to the workbook. You share. One share. Oh, look at me go. Now I know how. Figuring it out. Awesome. I love that. Okay, great. So I'm assuming everyone can see that. Okay, perfect. So why do you collect stuff? Oh, okay, that's come up differently, but anyway. So again, so as you know, I rescheduled the workshop. So kind of right now for me in my life, that's my son right now. I'm at a really high stress level. There's lots going on. So this is another good reason why to have our life organized. Not saying it's always perfect, but when these situations happen, it doesn't create so much havoc in life, right? So this is the workbook I want to send to you guys later. So the first thing I always ask everybody to do is decide what is your greater good. So why do you want to get organized? Why do you want to minimize? So some sample examples are, you know, it's causing me so much stress. It's causing friction between myself and my family. I need to create a more relaxed, stress-free home environment. Okay. So that could be, you know, always have your greater good, because when the times get tough, then at least you can go back to that and realize and remember why you're doing that. Okay. So then we go back to our reasons, so our top 6. So what I'd like everybody to do, if you can, if you have pen and paper, that's cool. If you don't, if you can just remember it. So I'm going to get you to go through and answer these questions. And I know you don't have the workbook there, but, well, what happened there? Sorry. So retail therapy. So what I'm going to do is get you to figure out your top 3 reasons why you collect stuff. So do you love a bargain? Yes, no. Is that why you shop? Because you love that adrenaline rush, because sometimes you're feeling really emotional or you're feeling upset and you think getting a bargain or going to buy something will help you feel better? Is that one of your big motivators for going out and buying stuff? So just go ahead and write yes or no on your paper. And then when you shop and find a bargain, do you actually ask yourself these things? So check all the ones you think about when buying an item. Do you actually ask yourself, do I really love it? Do I really need it? Do I have a permanent place for it? Will I use this item? Actually, that's meant to be finished up. Will I use this item within the next 3 months? Okay. So if you put a check mark beside them, and just say, or maybe you don't ask those questions. Maybe you don't have that conversation with yourself. You just buy it because it's very emotional to you. And then what I'd like you to do, if you can, is rate how high impulse bargain buying is to you. Like, is it the reason you can't get rid of stuff? Is overwhelmed from 1 to 10? Oh, I should really check my English here, shouldn't I? But what I want you to do is write a number between 1 to 10. Is retail therapy your motivator for collecting stuff? So 10 being the highest, right? It may not affect you at all. It may not be anything you think about. The second one is emotions. So what I'd like you to do is to either write down or think about some specific items that you are having trouble with letting go. Is there something that jumps to your mind, that one specific item? Or it could be a category of items like photographs, which I know is a really big thing, like the printed ones. Can it be even clothing is a really tough one, right? So if you write down, you don't have to write, you can just write down 3 or 4. And then what I'd like you to do is write down or think about the strongest emotions you are feeling and the reasons why. So are you feeling guilt about that one item? And guilt, is it because someone gave it to you or it belonged to someone that has passed away and you feel like being disrespectful to their memory? So say if you have some clothing of somebody that passed away, you know, do you feel guilt or is it comfort? You know, maybe it's a comfort thing why you keep it. I'm trying to think of some other items. If anyone has any questions in the chats as well, I don't know. I don't think I've missed any yet. Nope. Okay, cool. And then, so I kind of go through and relate that. So I'm trying not to rush you. I know it's really hard because you haven't had a time to look at this and think about it. But like I said, I will send it to you and you kind of get the idea and you can maybe have some time to do it. And then C, rate how high your emotions are preventing you from dealing with your stuff. So again, rate between 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest. If you can see that. And then the next reason we have is assign time. So do you often say to yourself, I just don't have time to deal with this crap? And the reason why I use the word crap in there is because quite often clients will say to me, I have so much crap. So it's not being derogatory, it's just how people see it, right, and describe it. You can either just tick there, say yes or no, time is not a reason at all. Like I do have time for it, but you feel it's not your priority. So the reasons why decluttering and creating an orderly home are, so going back to your greater good, like the reasons why decluttering an orderly home, why do you want to? So do you want to do it because you want to find things in your home easier? You want to save money? There are the top reasons. Just basically feel calmer in your own home. So you could write down some reasons there. And then the last one again is rate how high time is the reason you can't get rid of your stuff, is from 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest. Okay, so just let you know if you think that that's going to be one of your top reasons. Am I going too fast for everybody, or no? It's okay. Okay, cool. I see some people going nope. So then I have sentimental. So check any or all of the below areas of sentimental value that you struggle with. So is it kids, crafts, and achievements? So the reason I'm kind of explaining this in here, because you could just say a number, but sometimes we don't know what to relate to when I say that category, if that makes sense. So kids' class and achievements, loved ones passed away, separation, travel, current and past relationships. So just pick any of those if you struggle with it, because these will be, they will go under the category of sentimental. So feel when you go to remove these items from your home? Do you feel anxiety? Do you feel stress? Do you just feel like, I don't want to deal with this and I'm walking away? Any emotions that come to your mind. So again, rate between 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest. If you feel like, if you ticked a lot of those reasons, and if you put down very negative emotions towards that, then just write that number in there. Okay. So overwhelm. Which one is how you feel when you look at a room that is causing you concern with all of your stuff? So turn around and walk away. Stress, where do I start? Again, this will give you an idea of how to describe what overwhelm is. So if you tick 4 of them, then you know overwhelm is a huge one for you. If you tick 1, yeah, it's not so bad, right? Brain gets fuzzy and clouded. Again, that's saying, going back to the brain loves order, and then you come up with some excuse. It's like, oh, look at that, so I've got to go somewhere, or, you know, some excuse that comes above doing it, right? Like time, don't know where to take items, not ready to start. Again, if you go through and rate between 1 to 10, which is your highest, and then we're on to the last one. So after this, we're going to go through how you can, some strategies of how to handle this, right? So number 6, can't say no to people. How many times have you accepted items from someone that you did not love, like, or need? Oh, and that's not someone that you did not love, but the items that you did not love, like, or need. 0, I am happy to say no. 1 to 3, 4 to 7, 8 to 10, 10 pluses if, you know, so many times you've lost count. And then right in there, who are the main people that give or offer to give you their stuff? Is it parents? Is it neighbors? Is it friends? That's kind of the main categories I can think of. Again, go ahead and rate that one. Okay. So that is the top 6 categories that we talked about before that do the acronym REASON. So how did everyone go? So what I'd like you to go back now and see how many points you scored, but write down the top 3 areas that you scored the highest. Okay. And then these are the 3 that we're going to concentrate on, because if we try and do all 6, if you feel like all 6 are your reasoning, it's just going to overwhelm you, and you're just not going to be able to help you with that. Okay. So what we're going to do next is we will talk about the 6 points of how you clutter, sorry, it's hard to say, and talk about how you can create solutions and action items so you can stop doing it. And yeah, if anyone, again, anytime, ask me any questions. So retail therapy. Did anybody by any chance find that this is one of their reasonings? If you can, if you want to, you can put it in the chat. But how help our clients with this? It's like giving you rules and guidelines, which are never that much fun, but it's stopping you and giving you the tools to sort of say, do I love it? Do I need it? Do I have a permanent place for it? Another one is kind of environmentally friendly. Will I be able to donate it if I end up not loving it? Sometimes we do buy those things in the spur of the moment, right? And then it's like, oh, I don't need it anymore. So give yourself, ask those questions. If you answer no to 3 of them, then you don't need it. Okay. I find it really hard to shop myself. I'm not a shopper. And I never realized that I actually used to always do this. I used to always picture and have a conversation in my head. I just thought it was a little weird. But I would have this conversation and I'd be like, well, and I'm very visual. So I had to picture where that item was going to go. So I was like, well, and so I would walk away with nothing. And it's like, I would feel kind of like, well, everybody else has got something except me. And then kind of as I got older, I was like, okay, I appreciate that, right? And these are really good tools. Use the one in, one out rule. So that's another big one from the minimalists. I can't remember if Marie Kondo does that as well. But yeah, use the one in, one out rule. So you're going to buy a new sweater. Okay, great. Can I picture in my mind right away which sweater I'm going to get rid of or donate or sell or give to a family member? Okay, so have that in mind. Find an activity or hobby that will distract you. So sometimes it can be retail therapy. Like I said, it can be we do it because we're feeling upset. We've had a really bad day. We're stressed. You could list some ideas there of an activity or a hobby. So, you know, it could be just catching up with friends. It could be going for coffee. Something that gets you out and about or distracts you from that. So something that distracts you from that feeling at the time. Okay. So number 2, emotions. So what I talk about for that one, a really good way to deal with that is if you have one area that you're struggling with, or one room, take a sticky note and write down the first emotion that comes to mind. Like, you can do this just for a certain area or a house. Go back and see what emotions come up for you. So, you know, you have that vase and your first thought is like, you feel guilt because somebody gave it to you, so you don't want to give it away. Or you feel, sometimes you might feel anger because it belonged to somebody else, but you're keeping it to remind you of you don't want to be in that situation again. And depression, it was part of divorce, past partner, friend, where it was not a happy ending. Anxiety, you don't really have room for it, but you are keeping it because you spent money on it, right? So there's some emotions that come up. So what I like to say with that is if you're having negative emotions that are coming on that Post-it note, then you need to remove that from your house, right? It's a negative energy. Maybe some of you don't quite think like that way, but for me, I do, because I find like you look at it and it just creates that instant negative energy in the house or in your home. So really, really good reason to get rid of that item. And a way to tackle that, another way is use the 20-20 rule. So this is another really cool, I don't know if anyone listens or reads The Minimalists. So the 20-20 rule is if it doesn't cost more than $20, if you don't have to drive more than 20 miles to replace that item, then donate it. You know, if you're really struggling, if you're really in that, yeah, I have negative emotions, but I don't know how to deal with that, or that can be another really, really good quick say to yourself, use the 20-20 rule, okay? Okay. Sorry, I do talk fast as well, so if I try and slow down. But 3, assign. I don't have time to go through all my stuff, let alone take it away. Does that sound familiar to a lot of people? It really does. When we work with clients, they get to the point where they're like, I really cannot take time off work, because when they're doing it, or when you're doing it, it can take, you know, doing a pantry by yourself can take like 6 to 8 hours, which it's really hard to block out that time, especially if you have kids too, because they're always asking for your time. There's always something happening, and that's usually when you get halfway through it and then your child needs something and then you shove everything back in and it's not finished. And then, so when we come in, we help with a 3-hour session. We work with 2 consultants, and if the client wants to work with us as well, you know, that's 9 hours of time. So we can get a pantry done in 3 hours, if that makes sense. The best way to create time to help with your decluttering project is to use what we call is the Pomodoro method. So it's a time management method where you allot a certain amount of time. So say you're going to tackle the closet. Okay, that's your mission. So you have 20 minutes every day for a week to go through that. And that's what you'll do. You'll decide if it's going to be first thing in the morning or if it's going to be last thing at night. So that 20 minutes, when you do, you can motor through and you can get a lot done. And what I always say for that is you need to pre-plan. And that's why the next step. So before you start this, plan on when you're going to take your items for donation, or phone a donation center and book a date. So they'll come and collect the stuff. So that does a couple of really good things, actually. It sets you a date, so it holds you accountable and it gives you a timeline, right? So then you will commit to it because it's like, well, they're coming to get this stuff. And another thing I like to say is, say it to a friend, post it on Facebook, say it to family members what you're going to do. So again, you're held accountable, and put it in your calendar, your end date, and remember your greater good, right? Remember why you're doing this. When you get to that point of like, I'm so stressed and so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, take a look at that greater good, remember why you're doing it, and keep pushing through, right? I find sometimes half the battle is actually just knowing where to take that stuff. I know in Calgary, I'm not sure, I think a lot of you are kind of all over the place. In Calgary, I find that when I work with clients, they say to me, I don't know where to take it, and I can give them a list of places to go to. But I know the City of Calgary website, so I'm not sure if it's the same for each area. They have a really extensive list of where you can take things. And the items you need to have ready to go to save you time. So say before you are starting your assignment, have your boxes ready, your laundry baskets, because in your boxes you're going to sort into your categories, which you get to decide, which is either keep, sell, donate, or trash, recycle. Post-it notes, markers, Ziploc bags, and tape measure. Okay. They're kind of the main things we have in our organizing bag as well. Then we go on to sentimental items. Really, really hard one. And sentimental items can be a process with this one. So I've worked with a client before. It took her, we met up for coffee. We took a few phone calls. It's working through that process because her husband had passed away. I think it took us 4 to 6 months. But when we got to the point where she actually started, she couldn't stop, okay, because she could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Another reason was that she was actually going to move to a place which was going to make her happier too. So that's a good motivator as well. Not saying that you have to move home, but give yourself permission to let go. You're not being disrespectful or trying to erase the memory of your loved one. You're simply starting a new era of your life, okay? So a couple of ways you can make yourself happier about or feeling better about giving away or donating sentimental items. So take a photo. You can cut a small sample of the item, if it's a blanket, a sweater, or something like that, and you can put it in a keepsake box. And then the photos you can put into a collage. Or actually there's the electronic apps, and I can't remember the name of it right now. You can take a photo of it, and it'll put it, save it like as a photo album for you, okay? And when you're doing it, allow yourself some time to reflect on that memory and enjoy the moment, and then give yourself permission to let go. So sentimental items will take twice as long, okay? So don't think those ones are going to be as quick. If you use a Pomodoro method, you can do the 20 minutes, but just perhaps aim for, if you're really struggling with this, perhaps just aim to let go of 2 things or 3 things, right? So that's going to be huge for you. And another one I like to say now with sentimental items, if it's furniture, something like that, you can actually now have them repurposed. So you can have things repurposed into frames, into headboards, things like that, which would be super cool, right? So then you've always got that. But if you don't like that furniture as it is, then you're making it into something that you're going to use and love, okay? Number 5 is overwhelm. So it's kind of like assigned time. So breaking it down into smaller tasks. So I call them tiny tasks, and it won't seem as overwhelming. Again, very similar to assigned time. So create a plan. The plan is huge. It doesn't have to be super detailed. Sometimes I go to clients and I have a plan in my head, and they'll change it on me. But with organizing, it always starts with the same. So I don't know if you can see my t-shirt, but it says space. Oh, I'm trying to see if you can see it. So it's always sort, purge, I have to look at it, assign, contain, and then evaluate. So it's always the same. So that is kind of like your plan. So so that means sorting is sort into categories and group everything together in that area. And perhaps you have things in other areas. Only take that one category and put them together. Don't start taking tons of different stuff from, or start different categories, if that makes sense, because then that's where you get overwhelmed, right? And sometimes I know people will go to pick a category from another room, then they get sidetracked. It's like keep focus and just take that one category, okay? And then purge. So you have everything there. You're going to see, okay, I have 10 of this item. I have 5 of this item. 3 of them are the same color. I don't need that many, right? So you, it's very visual, and then you'll be able to make that decision a lot easier. And again, where are you going to take the items? Have an area where you could store the items. So that's huge, right? If you can't complete that project in one session, make sure that you have a little area that you can kind of, it's not going to impact too much of the family, but you know you're going to have it completed in a certain time, okay? And have your tools ready to go. Super important. And then number 6, so can't say no to people. So this can be a tough one, as you have well-intentioned family or friends. They want to give you stuff, they want to help you, or do they really? Are they just really trying to get rid of their stuff? Like it could be, you know, a little bit of both. And our parents like to keep items from our childhood that they think that we love. You know, it's really, like I said, I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters. I think I have a really, really small box of my stuff that I keep. And I have traveled a lot. I traveled when I left New Zealand when I was 21. So I just moved from country to country. So I really became good at what was super important and what I was attached to. And people kind of got to know that about me. And I find if people are saying now, I'm becoming a minimalist, people are like, oh yeah, okay. It just sounds really extreme. So a really good way is to sort of have that conversation with people and just say, you know what, I have enough stuff. I don't really need any more. And then if it makes you feel better, you can say, you know what, I can take these from you and take them to donation, if that's not going to cause you too much stress. But it kind of makes it, that person's like, oh, okay, you're going to take it away from me and take it for donation. It's a really tricky one, because sometimes you could also get away with accepting it and then taking it to donation and they don't know, which is a little tricky too. But another way to help with that is to also offer to create memories with that person, okay? So perhaps Christmas time is a really good one. So discuss, you know, before Christmas, it's like, we're not exchanging gifts, but would you love to come out for dinner with me? Would you love to come to the movies? So start creating those moments and those memories together. Now that's just kind of a really quick outline with that. And I know a lot of these can get really, need some more in-depth, you know, because they can cause a lot of friction between family. I know baby boomers have a lot of stuff, and some of their kids are like now going, you know, they have so much stuff, I don't want to deal with it. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Swedish, the gentle art of Swedish death cleaning. Sounds a little extreme, I know. We did a video about it, and really it's just the lady who wrote the book, she puts her age at between 85 and 100, which is kind of funny. And she's just talking about, she's trying to make people aware of, people don't want your stuff. I'm not trying to be a depressing conversation, but people don't want your stuff when you pass away. But it's just a kind of way of looking at life, I suppose, or collecting stuff. So on that note, that sounds a bit sad, doesn't it? But what I'll do is I'll just put that there. Does anybody have any questions or anything they would like to ask me? And if not, that's totally fine. I get it. It's sometimes it's a personal thing, and because you can write them in the chats, but you can also message me directly as well. Like I said, I do talk pretty fast. But this will be recorded for everybody, and I will also put a copy of the booklet, the workbook, in the comments. So if you do have any questions about it, please feel free to message me. I'm also offering my course, Reclaim Your Space, 3-week online course. So it really kind of goes through this, but it looks more in depth. So your top 3 that you've picked, it will actually talk more about how you, more strategies, more in depth, work with you personally. So that's launching April 15th. I can also put a link into there too. I don't see any, I don't think, if I look in the chats, I don't see any conversations, questions. So I hope that wasn't too fast. Like I said, again, I mentioned this before, but how do you manage a spouse that cannot get rid of things or is a collector? He is sensitive when I try to reason with him. That's a really good one, Angie. So when you have the conversation with him, I can't remember if I've said this before or not. It's not to be confrontational with them. It's to talk to them about it. Sometimes, and I know it's not really an answer, but sometimes having an outsider there to help, to chat about it can really help. When he's sensitive when I try to reason with him. So I'm wondering, Angie, like when you say you try to reason with him, are you explaining to him, is it causing you the stress? Is it taking up so much space? Can you try the tactic of saying, okay, can we just start with, I don't know if he has a collection, or he's a collector, so does he have a collection of things? Can we say, could you just get rid of 5 items for me today? And then if you can have ready for him a place to donate the stuff, unless you can sell it, if you think, or if you have a family member who might like that item as well, right? And that again is something that needs to be, it's a work in progress too. It causes me anxiety and things he never uses. He does have a collection. He just gets things we don't need and then gets attached. Yeah, that is a really, really interesting one, actually. And sometimes it goes back to childhood. And sometimes it's like, did you grow up with not much? Or did you grow up with parents that were collectors? Is it just something he's used to? Is he anxious that if he gives things up, he'll never get them back again? There's just a ton of things in there. And I would be really, really happy to have a chat with you, Angie, offline about that if you like, because there's a few other questions I would really get to ask as well. And that would be, okay, cool. So so there's just a lot more to get into, I think, with that. And Megan has a question. So thank you for asking that. And Megan, I have a problem with letting go. Oh, oops, okay. Okay, cool. So Megan, I have a problem with letting go of things I know I don't need, but we paid a lot of money for. It's something my husband and I fight about. Yeah, really, really huge one too. That is feeling the guilt because I just paid good money for this. So when you're buying these things that you paid a lot of money for, but you know you don't need them, why are you buying them? Do you have, is it a emotional time that you're buying them? Is it a time when you're like, okay, I'm having a shitty day or whatever it is, one-time use thing? Yeah, okay. That's a really big thing too, actually. So you have a special occasion and then you use them for that one thing, and then it's like, I'm never going to use it again. So sometimes how I deal with that is to have that conversation with yourself again. It's like, well, when I'm going to use it for a one-time thing, is there something, do I really need to use it? Is it going to make or break that occasion? Could I use something else? And then when you feel bad, so it's something your husband and you fight about. So I'm guessing your husband is kind of telling you to get rid of the stuff, or is frustrated that you're spending the money on these things? No. Okay. So can you sell these items? He hates getting rid of it because we spent the money. Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you for that. And so you sound like you're probably pretty happy to get rid of it. Yeah, you know what? Again, it's a tricky one with partners, right? Because they have a different view of it. Can you try sell them? Can you try give them to somebody else that will use them? Can you get rid of them when he doesn't see? I know I shouldn't say that, but and again, that's a really yeah, that's another one that I could definitely go into and ask a lot more questions about. So this is what I love about, I'm not saying that I love these situations, but it's a truly emotional thing, and it's truly a work in progress and some strategies that we can come up with. And that's what I love to help people with is, you know, we see all these organizing shows and everything looks pretty and it's all like Pinterest and stuff like that. It's not that, there's more to it, right? There's a huge underlying effect of this, because it includes partners, it includes kids, it includes, you know, just so many people. And this is where I love talking to people and helping them come up with those tactics. So again, for Angie as well, sorry, for Megan, I would love to chat with you too, and I'm quite happy to answer some questions and ask you some more questions too, and get a little bit more into that. Like when you say he hates getting rid of it, what does he do? Does he just get frustrated and angry and just kind of walks away? Or does he get mad at you for buying that item in the first place? Because if that's the case, then we need to go back to looking to why you buy that item. So mad at buying it in the first place. Yeah, okay. And you're like, you feel kind of, because you're buying it for something special, right? Or for that one-time use. It's like you needed it at the time, and it's really it's hard because I need him to kind of have that conversation with you and be calm about it and talk to you about it and say, come to an agreement perhaps of what you're going to buy. And yeah, I would love to chat to you again as well and ask you some more questions, because I know there's a bit more in there. Because I need to kind of know the scenario. But what I would do for you is like really try and work on stop buying those items. But I'm not sure what they are, if they are for kids' birthday parties, if they're for so entertaining, or summer vacations or things like that. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of context behind it too. So definitely. So Megan and Angie, I'm going to reach out to both of you guys, and if that's okay, obviously you can say yay or nay, and just like have some conversations, because I'd really love to get a bit more into that as well. So okay, I think that could be all the questions. I don't see any more. Let me just pop into here. but they're great questions, and they're really hard, frustrating ones. Hey, they are super, super tough when other people are involved and partners. And kids, sometimes kids can be really, really hard too, right? So we kind of go through a whole segment of that. And in our course as well, we actually do a whole segment of getting the family on board on how to minimize or how to understand why you're doing it. So how to get them to understand why you're feeling anxious and why they should listen to that, right? Because it's such a huge emotional drain on you. And it's how you feel. And sometimes it's really hard when you feel like that person is ignoring how you're feeling about it. And so we had a client today. It was awesome. She surprised her husband with getting his home office organized for their anniversary. And he wasn't too excited about it. But I really she was like, you know what? This is causing me anxiety. We need to do something about it. But how I told her to approach it was just explain to him, we're not throwing anything away. He can go through it. We're organizing it. Again, this is everybody's different too. So it's a home office. There was a lot of paperwork. There was a lot of bits and pieces. Explain, which could work actually for husbands, explain, we're not saying you have to get rid of everything, but you are allowed to have this much space. Okay, so give them this is your space here. You cannot go over it. Okay, because if you start going over that space, then it's going to cause me more anxiety. Okay, so that's a really good tactic to use as well. But he actually was really good, and we went through a lot of paperwork, and he left, and he's a very quiet guy anyway, but he seemed pretty happy about it. So, okay, guys, I'll stop share. That's how I do it. Okay, perfect. Cool. So I think that is all the questions. I don't see any more. And again, you can always put them in the comments, or you can message me privately. Angie and Megan, I would love to message you guys to just sort of ask a few more questions so I can give you a bit more advice and help there. So, okay, guys, thank you so much. I hope that was okay. And now I'm trying to figure out how to... okay, so I can stop recording. Okay, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And yeah, I hope this was some help to you, and I will sign off now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye.